What is happening in Portugal these days is a question that a lot of people are asking. Portugal has long been considered a popular destination for expats and digital nomads, but following a number of reforms and political changes in past years, it doesn't necessarily have the same pull factor that it once had. Joining me in this video are Josh and Kalie from Expats Everywhere, where we're going to talk about some of the changes that have been going on in Portugal in recent years, such as changes to immigration and citizenship law, visa requirements and eligibility, tax incentives, and of course, things like cost of living. So with that said, let's get right into it. All right, Josh, great to have you back on Millennials with Money, and Kalie, great to have you for the first time on Millennials with Money.
It's good to be back. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's always great to get the chance to talk about Portugal, being just on the peninsula and just neighbours essentially across land borders.
Absolutely, we're doing the same over on our channel, so it's good.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. We've got something coming up next year. Where we're going to be talking on Expats Everywhere, so look out for that. But topic of today's video, Portugal. So if we go back to 2020, maybe, Portugal was up there. It was like probably the number one destination or preferential destination for a lot of, particularly Americans, Brits as well, looking to relocate to Europe because of a lot of the attractive benefits it had, lifestyle, taxation, good digital nomad base. And then it seems now that in the space of since 2023 up to now, a lot has changed, and a lot of people are asking, what has happened with Portugal, essentially? So can you give us a bit of an overview before we get into the specifics?
Oh,
yeah,
gosh,
we could definitely give an overview from certainly 2020 on forward.
Since we've been here since then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a program called NHR, and it really no longer exists.
There was,
I should say. And in its original form, it had really massive tax benefits, kind of to all income earners, regardless of your income, whether it be from pension or active income from outside of Portugal. You could take some pretty great tax benefits. And then sometime, I think it was at the end of 2020, they changed the law. So beginning of 2021, it hit the retirees a little harder. It went from zero tax on pension income to 10%, I believe it was. So that was kind of the first thing that people started to freak out about, which was funny because it's guys, it's still only 10%,
yeah,
compared to other places.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning.
You're just okay. I thought you were going to completely unpack it. I guess we probably will unpack it at some point in the podcast. So NHR was one of the things that was really big. Immigration has just such a hot topic right now with how to immigrate, the requirements, the visas. We've seen a split between, it was just the D7 visa, which was living off of individual revenue, and then they decided that they're going to create this D8, which is more for remote workers, digital nomads, freelance. So instead, it's the D7 is for passive income, the D8 is for active. So we saw changes in immigration there. We're seeing currently changes in the potential citizenship laws of how long you have to be here to get citizenship through naturalization. There's all sorts of things going on politically.
The golden visa changed as well. Mm-hmm. The golden visa, it had real estate as being a pathway, so people could purchase a property. It first started out with properties, I believe, 250,
I think was the lowest.
And then there started to become criteria for what that 250 house had to be. And then they started to remove different municipalities from that. So then it was they're incentivizing people to buy in less dense areas, not on the coast, but inland. And then finally, they got rid of it all. So that was, that happened in 2023. So they got rid of all the real estate by real estate investment. Mm-hmm. There's still a golden visa by funds or donation or whatever. But a bombshell that was dropped just a couple weeks ago was that the government entity that is responsible for processing people's paperwork or applications had been essentially throttling how many they were processing, so that they were processing other types of cases that were deemed to be more time sensitive, which is a bummer because some golden visa people had no intentions on moving. They were just wanting to meet the stay requirement, which was very low. It was like basically spending a week in Portugal per year. Whereas there were other people trying to get a D7 visa or a D8 visa or family reunification visa, which is the D6, and they're like wanting to move to Portugal. But some golden visa people were wanting to move to Portugal, and without being able to formally have their application put through, they didn't have that right.
Mm-hmm. So they're paying more generally for.
Oh, it's like 10x. It's 10x the application fee.
Yeah, the application fees more, and then some waiting a year, 2 years just
3
to
years.
just to get this residency card that comes with the visa. Yeah. So when that came out, people were like, "Oh gosh, like what were they doing?"
But now that that's been cleared up, it looks like there's a pathway for reconciliation on that. But we still don't know what's going to happen with the new naturalization law when it comes out and what the fine print is, how it will play for or against golden visa applicants
for citizenship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, so a lot has been going on. Some very similar events going on in Spain as well. Obviously, complete elimination of the golden visa. There's been changes to things like the NLV here as well. So, yeah, but Portugal, Spain, I think it's been quite gradual in Spain, and the overall perception hasn't changed too much. It's maybe a little bit harder, but Portugal, it's quite a radical change to be very open and attractive to now. Don't want to say completely shutting the doors to people, but making it very difficult, perhaps much more difficult than before.
I think that's the noise that we see online, but I don't think that that's the reality. So I think it's very noisy right now online, and I think it's noisy because of this current bill that is going through Parliament onto the president, maybe bypassing the president and going straight to constitutional court. That was just news that kind of came out today. So I think that that's really more online noise, because I personally don't believe that we're going to see, we'll see when the dust settles what really happens. But I think that much like the problems that were dealt with in the past when it came to NHR going away or the golden visa change, it was very noisy, and then it got quiet and Portugal moved on.
People just got on with it, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there are some people who live here, especially with the citizenship thing, that might feel hard done if they've been here a couple of years and then they move it to 10. But when you're thinking about Portugal altogether anyway, and doing like a comparison with Spain, like, okay, if we talk about citizenship anyway, Spain, it's 10 years for Americans. So for Portugal to move to 10 years is not crazy. It's not like other countries don't do that. Okay, it's nice that it's 5 now, but if it moves to 10, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to align with other European countries. And then also with Spain, technically, you're supposed to renounce your American citizenship. You can't hold dual passports, technically, right? That's how the law is written. Portugal doesn't have that. So Portugal still allows you to hold dual citizenship. So while there might be some changes there, it's not like super crazy. And then as well, like you were talking about with the non-lucrative visa, which ours is comparable as the D7, you can still, if you come in on passive income with the D7 and then you decide you want to teach online or do some little side hobby, like you can still work and have some income coming in, which that was one of the changes that happened with Spain somewhat recently, right? So, I mean, there are changes going on, but like when you look at it, it's Portugal is still a desirable place to be, as long as you're okay with like, hey, there will be changes. But are the changes like detrimental and make it seem like, oh, it's awful, like I can't live here anymore because of this? Like, I think people are overreacting if you think that, because it's still a desirable place to live.
Yeah, I think it's like Josh said, you know, things are very much hyped up and made quite noisy in the media. And if you go purely based on sentiment and what you see online, yeah, you think like, oh, it's completely, that's the end of everything. But, you know, for people on the ground, like yourselves, like myself in Spain, like we know why people want to come to Portugal and Spain. And regardless of whether things get more difficult or requirements change, like there are still going to be people who want to move here. Like some people may not be able to do it. Some people who are maybe on the fence or tied between two places, you know, they might fall off. But there's some people I think who very much got Portugal and Spain at the very core and is the place they want to be, and they'll still find a way to get there regardless.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's why like both of our channels, we talk about the Iberian Peninsula, because it's like most of the time if someone's considering Portugal, they're considering Spain too, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like whenever I do a video about Portugal, it does get some interest as well, besides the Spain topic. So So definitely, yeah. Guys, maybe let's go into some of the specifics now. So if we talk about like the residency requirements, if we think about like the D7, the D8 visa, maybe income requirements or other things that are being asked for, what has changed there specifically?
I think Kalie can address this because a lot of it would be that D7, D8 split, because that created a pretty interesting gap, really.
Yeah, the biggest thing, like I mentioned before, obviously with the D7. So it was just the D7 was living off of individual revenue. That's what they had as that visa. So if you could come in if you were retired, but you can come in if you were remote working. Then they decided, well, let's go ahead and split this, especially as I think a lot of countries created a digital nomad visa and such. Like Portugal was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do something like that as well. But we'll include like digital nomads, freelancers, remote work, like all of that. Like you have active income. So when they made the split a couple of years ago, you've got the D7, D8. Passive income is how you have to prove how you're financially stable with the D7, and then active income, so a working contract, etc. for the D8. Now, the biggest thing, which was kind of a shock for people, is the D7 is pegged to minimum wage. So to show financial stability, you have to be making minimum wage, at least minimum wage. Now, obviously not necessarily living off of that because it is quite low. So currently in Portugal, it's 870 euros a month. So minimum wage is quite low, and it's pegged to go up to 920 next year. And then following years, it's going to go up 50 euros. So that means a single person would just say, I need to be making at least 870 euros a month. And then it's 50% of that if you have a spouse. But then with the D8, what they decided to do is they pegged it to minimum wage for the main applicant. It's 4 times the amount of minimum wage. So it's taking 870 times 4 for the main applicant. And then there's a percentage for other dependents. So I think that's really difficult for a digital nomad. So you can still say, like, I'll be a digital nomad and I will live comfortably in Portugal because of the cost of living and affordability. That's still something you could do, but maybe it's hard to prove 870 times 4 on a monthly basis. And it's on average 3 months before you apply. So it doesn't have to be exactly that every time, because they do understand like freelancers might have like 1 month it's like this and then the next month it's like this. So it has to be on average. But it is kind of a big difference financially what you have to prove.
Yeah, I think if we take the Spanish equivalents, the digital nomad visa and the NLV, and we compare them, I think in terms of financial requirements, Portugal's D7 is much more attainable for the majority of people. Another thing, as you said, which we'll come to a bit later in the video, is getting by on that.
Yeah, I really want to talk about that.
But exactly, yeah. In Spain, it's very similar. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember which way around it is, but both the digital nomad visa and the NLV, one is 4 times the IPREM and one is 4 times the minimum wage, something like that. So both visas have pretty much broadly similar, one maybe higher than the other, but broadly similar income requirements. Whereas in Portugal, you've got, for the passive income visa, the D7, it's much, much lower. And I think the Portuguese digital nomad visa income requirement is actually higher than Spain's as well, based on what you said. Granted, what you said in Portugal, yeah, they will accept an average over a number of months, whereas in Spain, it's consistently proven that minimum amount of income over, I think it's a period of 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the thing that I find kind of crazy from a bureaucratic standpoint is you're worried about cost of living and foreigners raising cost of living. Yet then you make a requirement where for sure you're going to be bringing in these digital nomads that have way more purchasing power than locals. Now, is it to raise the tax basis or not? I don't know. But it would be awesome to hear like genuine clarity from bureaucrats whether or not that, it's like that's why they made that decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we talked about this when we had the podcast last year, Josh. Like, we don't necessarily know what the solution is, but on the same logic as what you just said, the Spanish golden visa, where the minimum investment for property was 500,000 euros, that's not typically the properties being bought for that are not going to be bought, in my opinion, by an average Spanish family. But if you take away the golden visa, probably a lot of people who would have gone for that will now try for an NLV. And if they want to buy property, they no longer have restrictions on what kind of properties they can buy. And in that case, they may be buying cheaper properties.
Yeah. Yeah. And taking those, out of the realm of attainability for an average Spanish family. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go on with the cost of living thing then, because not something we talked about in the intro, but have they ballooned in Portugal? I've heard about it, seen it. Similar thing happening in Spain, but in Portugal, I think it's something else. To the point where even on Numbeo, when I've done research videos, Lisbon rent costs are higher than Madrid.
Yeah, which seems crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you from what we have personally tracked, because every year around the same time of year, we do like very diligent tracking for 30 days. Like we spend a 30-day period per usual, and we track every single euro that we spend, and then we put out a video on our findings. And I mean, basically between 2021 when we did the first video, and then earlier this year when we did the most recent video, we didn't find too much deviation from like what you'd find with regular inflation. I do feel like since we've made that video, we will see, excluding rent, we will see that our costs have gone up what feels significantly. But I do think that housing by far and away is the craziest thing that has happened in the past 5 years since we've been living here. Like wildly more expensive, double, if not more.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like going back and looking at apartments that we used to live in, what we paid and then what they're listed for now, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Or like I remember having a conversation maybe 6 months ago with someone who was saying that he has a friend who lives in Miami, and they were comparing prices, and Lisbon was more expensive for housing than Miami, where his friend lives. So like that just kind of blows your mind. You're thinking, whoa, what is going on? So I guess part of it might be a bit of like the housing crisis as well, just like what's actually on the market. So the supply and demand really throws it off. And then, it doesn't help that when people are trying to renovate, getting permits and getting stuff through like the cameras to get paperwork that you need is like so slow. And it's like, come on, everyone, like let's get this stuff through so that the renovations and the construction can continue so that they flood the market a bit more. So I think we see a little bit about that, but like housing wise, that's the craziest like X factor when you're thinking about an overall budget and affordability for Portugal. But yeah, it has gone up the past 5 years, but still life is super affordable here, but a lot will depend on your lifestyle as well. What restaurants are you eating at?
I do want to pause and say super affordable in a North American sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
Like a Canadian or an American moving here would find the pricing to be in air quotes cheap, whereas obviously for other Europeans and certainly for Portuguese, no, things have gotten more expensive.
Yeah,
I think even Brits would come across and say Portugal is cheap. Whether that's multitude of factors, stronger pound, crazy cost of living crisis in the UK as well. Me as someone who's been in Spain for a long time now, like I would probably look at this scenario and say, yes, this is quite expensive. But yeah, that's exactly a good point that you make.
I mean, I think what Kalie was talking about with lifestyle as well. The longer people are here, and really anywhere, lifestyle creep is a real thing. I think when you first move, one, you've probably like figured out how to cut things off. You've cut some subscriptions off that you no longer feel like you need because you're making the move. And then whenever you do actually like make the move, your first couple of months are more expensive. Then, frugality sets in. You figure out, okay, like what do I really need? And you kind of peel back. But then after maybe year 2 or 3, you start adding things back to your life that then raises your cost of living. And that's that lifestyle creep. You don't even realize it's happened, and it's happened. You've picked up a gym membership. You've picked up doing these lessons or this thing that you didn't have before. And next thing you know, like you're spending 2, 3, 4, 500 more euros a month.
Yeah. Because when you first move, generally in your mind, you have your budget and you're really tracking that. So you cut stuff out, like Josh said. You move. Generally, the first few months are more expensive because of setup costs, just typical things that you want to get for your home to make it more comfortable or whatever that might look like. But then, yeah, you kind of settle in and you're still looking at your budget and your finances closely because you want to see how you're doing. But after a couple of years and you get comfortable and you're just like, you're spending things on, you're getting massages and you're getting your nails done. And you do look at that and say that is super affordable. So, just to give you an idea for that, like this is where stuff is really affordable. Certain like services. So I can get an hour massage where I go for €45, which that I think maybe 10 years ago in the States, you could do that like for that price. So, but then you're like, oh, this is super affordable and this is something I would like to do. So then you just add that to maybe a monthly thing. And then like Josh said, that's when it creeps in because you've gotten comfortable and you started going back into these certain lifestyle things that you want. So then you end up spending more than you realized or had planned.
And did you want to talk about some other real costs that we can
go on? Yeah. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
I mean, so like in the grocery store, I think when we first arrived, we were probably paying like $2.50 for a dozen eggs, and now the same eggs that we buy, it's $3.29. So it's like, okay, that's only a few euros or whatever extra, like €5 extra per month. But if every single item is doing that, like your bill grows, right? Milk, when we first arrived, it was at Pingados, which is a grocery store chain that's Portuguese, like ubiquitous all over the country. It always had the milk on sale for 89 cents.
Yeah, the milk that was cold, not the shelf milk.
Yeah, Vigor milk is the brand, and now it's 109 and sometimes 119 for the same size and everything.
Same one,
so I mean, like by percentage, that's a big increase, So those are just like two quick examples for anyone that can eat eggs and is not lactose intolerant.
yeah, both of them. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, great. Okay, maybe we'll come back to the NHR now. So you explained what the NHR was in its original form. There is a new version, as you said. Some people have called it the NHR 2.0. I think there's an official name
that
maybe goes with
it.
Yeah. But based on what I understand now, it is broadly the same benefits, but restricted more or less to professionals, research and development activities.
Okay, yeah. So NHR is non-habitual resident, and it's funny because it's like, what does that really mean? But essentially, the law stipulated that it didn't matter if you were Portuguese or a foreigner. You had to be living outside of the country for 5 years, coming back into the country and applying for this special tax scheme. So there were it incentivized some Portuguese people, especially those with let's say remote jobs or just mobile jobs, to come back into the country, and I assume become part of the tax basis again and maybe start raising kids here and whatnot. And we actually know some Portuguese families who did this. So it wasn't just for foreigners to attract foreigners, although it did that for sure as well. So NHR 1.0 essentially capped people's income that was sourced outside of Portugal to 20%. And then this new one, it appears as if, they're really targeting people that are in science and tech, and trying to not only that, but even bring in businesses that are surrounding science and tech,
and startups too,
and be able to give those new employees that are in Portugal this tax break.
Yeah, they've mainly,
but it's very limited in scope,
and
pensioners
they've cut them out. That's been the biggest thing is the NHR 1.0. A lot of people who were coming in on pensions or Social Security or 401ks, any sort of retirement, it was very nice because if it's capped at a lower percentage, because just like in Spain, we're on the progressive scale and it can get up to 48%, so taxes can be quite high. So kind of knowing a fixed rate of what your taxes are was good for people as well, and you know this for 10 years, and then you can plan for afterwards. So then it ended abruptly. That was another thing that was like a mad rush, because all of a sudden it was like in the fall, they're like, okay, like we're done with this. You have till the end of the year. So people were like, what?
But at least they gave people a transitional period. That was nice.
Yeah, so you had
albeit a short one.
Well, okay. So what they did is you had to, so it was in the fall that they passed this, and they said you have until the end of the year, and you had to prove your intent that you were going to move. So people could do that not easily, but anyone who was already thinking about moving, generally, if you kind of already put the wheels in motion a little bit, then you could prove that. And then the following year, they gave everyone the year to kind of like sort it out. So that was helpful, but a lot of people freaked out. And then soon after they roll out NHR 2.0 is what it's called, but it is quite different because, the pensioners and stuff are definitely cut out.
For sure.
But yeah, that's kind of how it evolved.
Were there people that moved to Portugal because of the NHR, or was it kind of a bonus for them, do you think, from the people that you've seen who've moved?
Yes.
That's a good question. I know, both. Yeah.
Both. I think there were definitely some people that moved, and there were also people that decided to pull the plug on their plans because NHR was being removed, and they didn't want to make the move that quickly. They didn't want to take the steps to lock NHR in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of people did move thinking like my money will go a little further. I have an idea of what my tax rates will be, and so I can retire here full on. But like Josh said, there are some people who were like, if my taxes are going to be this now, I don't think I can make the move, or I can't make the move now. Mm-hmm. But then there are plenty of people who didn't know anything about it. So it's once it kind of ended and the noise online went away, all the freak out sessions that happened, we would talk to people and they would have no idea what it is or what it was. So they were like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that was a thing. So there were people who didn't even know it was a thing. And maybe they moved here and it was a great perk once they had to do accounting. But after it went away, didn't seem to be as big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I would say broadly speaking, like general income North Americans moving to Portugal, married, tend to have the best tax benefits. Because if you're moving and you've got a good paying job and you're single, like you're being taxed on your income without the like kind of deductions that you get when you're married. When you're married, it's like everything that you're making is divided in like by 2, and then now that's where your tax basis is, I guess. Mm-hmm. So you can save in a sense. I mean, obviously, if both people are working, then you've got 2 incomes, and that's a little different story, but
the amount goes up.
Yeah. And again, I think it comes back to what we were saying a little bit earlier, is that probably the people that weren't even aware about this are the people who like COC, like are going to move to Portugal, and the people who discarded it, okay, maybe they're thinking about Spain's Beckham law, maybe they're thinking about Cyprus non-dom or whatever. Like it's purely a tax motivated move that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know some people that switched and decided to go to France, some retirees, because their pension income would be taxed at 10% versus going on the progressive scale here.
Okay. Well, I mean, we talked about the citizenship already a little bit. Is there anything else we need to say about it, or because I think it was pretty clear actually from already what we discussed? Kind of the 5 to 10 years extension.
Yeah. And right now it's kind of up in the air. Nothing's actually been passed. So it's all this, well, it could be this, it could have this. So it's a little hard to say what's actually in the bill and what will stay, because if it'll go pass back and forth, and then we don't even know time frames.
Yeah. I mean, there's complications with it, at least from what we've been told, in terms of how it potentially violates Portugal's constitution. So there's a lot of fine tuning to the wording to maybe avoid it violating the Constitution, because it could essentially create 2 different classes of citizens, which would be in violation really of the Constitution, to have some citizens who could possibly have their citizenship revoked, and then other citizens that won't have their citizenship revoked. So it's tricky and it's very muddy, and we get a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, but everything's...
we need to just wait to see what actually gets published.
Right.
I can see a question brewing in your mind.
Yeah, this part of revoking citizenship is something that I'd not heard before. What is this all about?
So the wording that I saw was if you commit some like level of criminal act, or you say something that could be deemed as like detrimental to the government, to Portugal, like brings disrespect on Portugal, which it seemed pretty ambiguous, like the language around it, that you could essentially have your citizenship
lose
removed.
Your citizenship. Yeah.
And the only way that would not be possible according to the Constitution is if that would leave you stateless. But if you were holding 2 citizenships and you committed this act or you did whatever, and they removed your citizenship, you would have to be a citizen of another country. It's weird, man.
Yeah, and this is only applicable for people who are naturalized Portuguese citizens, not by descent or birth or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it's like two classifications of citizen.
Which could be in violation of their constitution.
Yeah.
Is what one of the guys who's really speaking out is known as the father of the Constitution. He's one of two who wrote it. Which it seems to me crazy that like he's still alive. But I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they actually wrote their constitution. So I was reading that he put together like an 82 page report, I guess, on how a lot of stuff in this bill is unconstitutional, and he would know because he was there. So we'll see like what happens really, because it passed in Parliament. That's like the first step. So then we'll see what happens now.
Okay, yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with that. Okay, well, guys, bringing all this together, we know the answer, but maybe we can elaborate on who this is best for. So we know, I understand from your perspective, yes, Portugal is still an attractive place to be. Yeah. It's an attractive place for people to come to. In that case, despite all these changes, who will best benefit from relocating to Portugal, or who can enjoy life to the full in Portugal based on what they're looking for?
I mean, kind of immediately, I would say families with kind of that mid-level income. I don't think high net income earners, like if you don't qualify for NHR 2.0, I don't know if it makes a ton of sense unless you really want Portugal. And I think honestly, like if you're going to move here, because there are certain like bureaucratic idiosyncrasies that might drive you crazy, you need to really want to be here. But no, for high net income earners, you're going to be heavily taxed. So just consider like how much are you willing to part just to live here. For families making middle income, I think it's a great place. Like I said, you've got you can potentially become more tax efficient being a couple. You've got safety.
It's very family friendly.
Super welcoming to for kids and family oriented. There's more options for education that are coming up.
I think also those who are younger but early retiring, I guess. So that's a big one that I hear about in the US is that they're too early to retire and be able to draw off of Social Security or some sort of retirement they have, but they financially could do it. The reason that they don't is because they can't access good affordable health care. So they have to work to make sure that they have health care, but they don't actually need to work anymore because they financially have set themselves up. So I hear of a lot who are, maybe in their late 40s, early 50s, who can retire financially because they did well for themselves, but they need to move somewhere else to where their money goes a little further, and then they're not getting crushed by healthcare costs. And so that's a desirable reason to move over to Portugal, is because of the lower healthcare costs and then overall affordability still of life. Really.
We even know a couple couples in their 30s that did it and have had kids, but they worked really hard and smart, like in the financial industry in the U.S., and they were able to retire early. They wouldn't have been able to do so in the U.S., but they could in Portugal, and they live off of investments.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's pretty much, we can sum it up as it's a lifestyle decision now to come to Portugal, more so than to take advantage of any benefits.
I think so.
For sure.
Yeah, because a lot of the benefits have either gone away or at least have changed. So if you're going to come with the mindset of I have this benefit, know that it could potentially change while you're here. So will you continue to hold that benefit? Who knows? They do grandfather in for certain things, but that is something that could change. So it's probably not the best idea to come in thinking I'm just coming for this benefit. You really should come because you want to live in Portugal. And Portugal is still an amazing place to live for the reasons that we said. I mean, the food, the safety, the overall lifestyle, work-life balance,
climate,
the access to travel around Europe. So it's still a great place to live, but it's better to come wanting to live in Portugal, and that's why you move here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think as well, on that, I think anchoring a relocation abroad around one specific benefit or advantage that you'll have from being there, without the substance of there's something else that draws me to this country and it could be a good place to live. I think it's I don't want to say a recipe for failure, but it's not setting yourself up for the best chance at making the most of it and making it a success.
Absolutely. Some people do that. Some people are like very kind of like one-dimensional and like, I'm going here because of this. And we did that when we moved to Saudi Arabia. We were like, okay, we can have a tax-free income, save X number of dollars. And I mean, we did want to learn about the culture and experience that region. But yeah, one of the main points was the tax benefit, because we could have gone to some other countries in the region as well.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for this discussion. Great to have you on. Learned a lot, and I'm sure the viewers did as well.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. I'll put a link to Expats Everywhere in the video description so that you can go and check them out as well. Leave a comment and let me know what are your thoughts on what's going on in Portugal these days. And if you like this video and you want to see more about videos I've done related to Portugal and Spain, then be sure to check out these two videos here. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.